Sumo chiefs tried to bury this under mountains of hakuho news, but they couldn't pull it off, as the sumo press and the hardcore fans have been onto this since last month. Kimura Ginjiro, a top division referee so dedicated you could call him Mr. Sumo, has lost his job of 35 years over acts of embezzlement. Placed in charge of a wrestler committee charity fund, he had, since early 2019, been constantly using fund donations to feed a gambling addiction. Over $150,000 went missing from the fund and the wrestler committee bank account. He's repaid around $23,000, but the rest, we presume, may never be recovered. The shock, I can tell you, is seismic. Ginjiro was one of the most trusted sumo presences, helping set up at every tour venue, greeting people in reception, having wrestlers confide in him throughout. He was not only a great referee whose calls were hardly ever overturned, but a peerless sumo historian who seemed to live for the study. He was also a hit at sumo talk show events, popular with fans of course, and a treasured presence on the sumo social scene. I should add, he's been personally good to me on the few occasions we've met, not least back in 2008 at his old stable's after-party. Lots of us here wish this news were not true. As an extremely old Japanese custom, Sumo thought in 2011, when setting up this fund, that extremely old-fashioned accounting arrangements, akin to those of a neighborhood group, would suffice. Thus, even though Sumo has an official accounting department, the secretary of the Wrestlers Committee was placed in charge of the fund, to which each first and second tier fighter would donate in cash prior to every tournament. Just as for all the money flying around at stable parties, no books have ever existed for this fund. And with, it seems, only one other referee lightly overseeing him, Ginjiro felt he would never get caught. According to Sumo's report released today, a week after its rubber stamping, Ginjiro, over 6 years and more, gambled the entire wrestler committee fund away on boat racing, one of the few forms of betting actually legalized in Japan. Since 2021, he'd also made withdrawals from the wrestler committee's bank account, pretending a yokozuna had told him to purchase various gifts. He managed to hoodwink the other referee in charge of committee accounting, and spent that money on boat race bets also. The report acknowledges he regrets what he did, but says the scale of his perfidy is such that he has to be dismissed without any retirement pay. Although the report explicitly accuses him of criminal acts, it makes no mention of criminal charges, neither of punishments for his last 2 masters for oversight failures. And neither does it confirm our surely correct suspicions that the very sudden move in May to store less cash in prize envelopes was directly related to this. The report's bizarre conclusion is, despite, I repeat, the fact that Sumo has official accountants, that wrestlers on the committee, with no accounting skill, should now manage their books. It predictably avoids the fact that gambling is rife in professional sumo and makes for standard conversation, with older staff openly boasting of how much money they used to lose before they mended their ways. It declines to say if other sumo staffers gambled with Ginjiro, and whether they thought his gambling of huge sums normal until he began embezzling. And it certainly never mentions that the current sumo chairman was, when lower ranked, suspended 15 years ago for his own involvement in gambling. The culture is so endemic that few even think it strange, let alone seek to reform it. Hence, you must now be watching the final act in referee's garb of a problem allowed to fester. At the wrestler committee meeting just 2 days later, Ginjiro was asked to present evidence that the fund money was still there, and would try to stall yet again. The wrestlers finally had enough and demanded he be looked into. His downfall has now followed. What an appalling waste.